Hello, thank you for joining me. Today I'm talking about A Study in Seduction by Nina Rowan. This is a romance novel. It takes place in 1854 in London, England. The story primarily revolves around Lydia Kellaway and Alexander Hall, who is also the Lord Northwood. It starts with Lydia going to visit Lord Northwood to inquire about a locket that he recently acquired. The locket had belonged to Lydia's deceased mother. Lydia's grandmother had sold the locket to a pawn shop without her knowledge or permission. Lydia is quite determined to get the locket back. She makes Lord Northwood several offers. She offers him antiques in trade. She's about to start a job soon, so she also offers him promise of her future checks from her employer, and he doesn't go for any of it. So instead, she makes him a bet. She'll provide a problem, and if he can't solve it, then she will get the locket. He counters and says, well, if she loses the bet, then he has to give her a kiss. He is able to solve the problem, but instead of claiming his kiss, he promises to get it at a future date. Throughout the rest of the book, Lydia and Lord Northwood, or as she comes to call him, Alexander, continue to meet. As they get to know each other better, that initial spark of attraction is fanned even more. We also meet their families. Lydia has a younger sister named Jane, a grandmother named Mrs. Boyd, although both her parents are deceased. Alexander has 3 brothers, a sister, and a father. 2 of his brothers do not feature in the book. This is much more of a character-driven book than a plot-driven book. I was surprised very pleasantly about the amount of personalities that these characters had. Not having read much historical romance, I had kind of expected them to be paper dolls moved along in front of a very pretty background. There were some surprises in the plot. I couldn't guess the ending right from the beginning of the book, so I liked that. That being said, there wasn't much plot. Everything was much more based around what the characters were saying and doing right at that moment than any kind of overarching themes that I could tell. There are some points which I felt were overplayed. It is shown early on that Lydia is a talented mathematician. She has been hired for her math skills in 1854, which kind of says something as she was a woman, but I can't really recall much of it when it wasn't that plot relevant. Like, you don't ever see her at work or doing special projects. I thought that would have been really neat. And it may be because I'm more of a casual historical romance. Before this one, I can't recall the last one I read, probably many years ago. But the author refers to the same characters by many different names. Alexander Hall is Alexander Northwood, Lord Northwood, and the characters refer to each other that way as well. So Lydia will refer to her grandmother as both grandmother and Mrs. Boyd. So the reader will need to be sure to pay attention to that. All in all, it was a pleasant read. I wasn't engaged at the beginning, but by the middle of the book, I wanted to know how it ended. Since I'm more used to modern romance stories, there was a little bit less sex than I expected. That's fine. It suited the book perfectly well. It's not a bad book, but I wouldn't particularly recommend it. I can't ever see myself sitting down and rereading the whole thing cover to cover. At best, I think I would page through and reread some of my favorite parts. But if you are interested in another romance novel that starts off with a bet, I would recommend Bet Me by Jennifer Crusie. This book starts with Minerva Dobbs overhearing the other main character, Calvin Morrissey, making a bet to get her into bed to win $10. So she decides to pretend she doesn't know about the bet and date him for 3 weeks so she can have someone to go with to her sister's wedding. It's a really fun and funny book. I enjoy it very much. I've read it at least 6 times. And actually, when I was looking at it again for this review, I read it again in the past 3 days, so it's pretty fun. If you'd prefer a romance set longer ago, I would recommend the series of short stories called A Knight's Christmas. I can show you the back of the book because my copy is kind of old, so the cover is no more. It's a series of short stories. It has 3 stories. The first one is Kara's Gifts by Suzanne Barclay. The second one is The 12th Day of Christmas by Margaret Moore. And the third one is A Wish for Noel by Deborah Simmons. They're set in around medieval times. I'm not exactly sure when. The first one involves a crusader coming home, so that's probably about the time period. They're lovely stories, which are the perfect length for getting their plot across. Usually I don't enjoy short stories that much, but I thought they were very sweet. Thank you so much for watching, and please join me again next time. Bye.